Okay, we're on. Here we go. Welcome to Marriage with Joy, which is the most open discussion on the internet about the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant aspects of living in harmony with matrimony. Marriage with Joy unabashedly discusses the most interesting questions raised by listeners. Our informed and informative panel addresses issues with thought, wit, and aplomb. Voted best of the web 2 years running. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, you're always looking for and finding the good. That's why you tuned into Marriage with Joy, because, in this show we talk about the good, the better, and the best, because that's what marriage is all about, especially when you do it with joy, happiness, peace, and love. And today we have a special session, because today we are taking in the advice of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have asked, okay, you wonderful people, will call us experts, they call us that, can you give us some tips on how to have marriage with joy? So I said, okay, let's do that. So we've asked our wonderful panelists, who we'll introduce in just a moment, each one, and we're awaiting one more of our quartet to come on, and then we'll begin, and we're going to each offer 2 tips for having a wonderful marriage with joy, whether it lasts for a decade, 2, 3, 4, in my case, going on to 5 in a few years. So it's all good. It's all wonderful. And it's a great way to start the year. We're in the beginning of this year called 2023. 2023, right. Not 2032, 2023. And it's January, so it's a great time to do these things. People are still keeping resolutions or making resolutions. And what better thing to do to resolve to be happier, healthier, and wealthier in your marriage? Because that's really what marriage is all about. It is that unique place where one can actually be oneself and learn how to grow. Really, we're in a garden. Marriage, if you have to give some sort of synonym or analogy, would be, in my humble opinion, a garden where you can plant seeds and watch things come up, know that you have to pull out the weeds sometimes and just curate and do things and make it beautiful, because that's really what life is all about. It's the tapestry, it's the garden, it's a fabulous place that things happen that bring about benefit for everybody involved. If that's your attitude going in, you have a shot at it. And if it's your attitude as you continue day by day, you have a shot at it. And if it's your attitude, even in the midst of the greatest difficulties in marriage, because there will always be difficulties because it's called life, then you will be able to cultivate a garden of delight, which of course is the acronym for God. You like that one, kids? Garden of Delight. Just came off my tongue, just thought of it. Hey, that's pretty cool. You're welcome to use it. And here, speaking of Garden of Delight and God, it's our end. Oh, now we have a quartet. Okay, we can play with the strings. Wow, Lori, there's something for you here, but we won't mention that at the moment. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. With your permission, I'm gonna introduce myself, Barry Shore, your humble host. Honored to be with these remarkable, bountiful, beautiful beings. And we have in the upper northwest corner of the United States of America, and by the way, since we are a worldwide phenomenon, we are a phenomenon. You should know this, kids. I get emails from, I'd say, at least 38 countries that I've counted. And I'm sure there are many others out there also, but 38 countries that I counted all over the world actually listen and leaning in, and they're fascinated. And I got to tell you, most of the time people agree. A large percentage of the time, though, people don't, and they send back notes and saying, you're all full of it, or this or that. And well, we are full of it, but full of goodness, of course. But the point is that people they're not just sitting there like milquetoast. They are getting involved. So in the northwest corner of the United States of America, yes, weighing in. Well, we don't talk about weighing. Coming in. Okay, fine. I'm having a lot of fun today. Is wonderful Dr. Diane Madvad. Yeah, that's she. And down in the lower right-hand corner of the United States of America, holding down the fort in the great state of Florida, is yes, the ambassador of smiles, right, Maura? Happiness. Yes, ambassador of happiness, Maura Sweeney. And over in the far left coast, the far lower left part of the United States of America, the left coast, but she, thank God, is holding up the conservative flag of what do we call it? Joy, happiness, peace, and love in a hearty household of good values, is our own wife expert, Lori McDermott.
Hello, everybody.
And here, out in the middle of the desert, Henderson, Nevada. Some people call it Las Vegas. We don't, because it's 17 miles away. But yes, in Henderson, Nevada, Barry Shore, and happy to be here. So today we have a very special show because, as I mentioned, people have asked, okay, you experts, can you please share with us two tips? That's what we asked for. 2 tips from each person. We're going to do 1 round each, and then we'll do another round of a tip for your recipe for marriage with joy, either from your own marriage or marriages you've seen, whatever it is that you're thinking about. But one tip that we can share with our listeners, which now number not many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, as an idea of being able to really internalize, utilize, and leverage in life. So, of course, we lead off with our great slugger, wonderful Dr. Diane Medved. Yeah, hitting it out of the park. All right. Dr. Di, would you please tell us what your not number one, but one of your 2 tips for living a marriage with joy?
Well, of course, I had to take it from my book, Don't Divorce.
Wait a minute, DD, don't divorce.
I have a section in the epilogue in which I suggest that people who are having difficulties or not feeling good about their marriages do a reset. And when they do that, I give them 2 tips in order to reset their marriages so that they can go forward and change it into a rewarding and happier situation. Now, I don't say an instant happiness change, but if you do these 2 tips, you will see an instant turnabout in the ambiance of your marriage. And the first of the 2 tips, because you're only asking for 1 right now.
One at a time, right? We do 1 at a time.
Is behave as if you are happily married.
Wait a minute. First of all, as you're saying the words, I'm loving it. Right. Because your exterior behavior does something to your interior process.
And that's the way it works. Exactly right, Barry. Is that if you behave, even if it's inauthentic, even if it's contrary to the way you're feeling at the moment, even if it violates your values, if you behave in that moment as if you're happily married, then you will change what's going on right then and move forward from there. Now, what does it mean to behave as if you're happily married? That's basically thinking, what does my spouse want? What does he or she want? What can I do that would reflect that I was happily married to this person? And there are 3 ingredients. Okay, I'm kind of embellishing on the one tip.
Right. This is cool. 3 ingredients in the recipe.
Ingredients to behaving as if you're happily married. And it is to show your spouse acceptance, respect, and affection.
Well, let me do it again. I'm sorry. Affection was the third. Was the first one is respect?
Acceptance.
Oh, acceptance.
Respect. And affection.
Now,
every person wants and needs all 3 to feel supported, to feel loved. And if you're happily married, you're going to look for opportunities to reinforce those 3 things. Usually women are biggest on affection. Men are often biggest on respect, but that doesn't matter because every moment you can decide, can I give 1 or more of these 3 things? I think you need acceptance as a bedrock. You need to accept who that person is, even if you don't like them right now, even if they're doing something you really don't want them to do, even if they've never learned how to behave properly. You need to accept them right now in order to show them any respect or in order to show them any affection. So you accept the person first and foremost. And then you think at this moment, how would a happily married person behave? If I was happily married to so and so, what would I say right now? If I was happily married to this person, what could I do right now to show that I love them? And so every moment, if you can just think, how can I behave as if I'm happily married? Then you're going to look at things from the other person's perspective. And that will turn about any negativity that you have. Now, look, this is not a long-term thing. It's a moment-to-moment thing. You don't have to look as if it's forever that you're going to have to. Instead, just say, right now, what can I do to show respect to my partner? It might be just to say yes to what they're saying. And it might be to say, I love you. It might be to leave a note and go something beyond what you'd normally do. This is the idea. Don't do what you normally do. Be the person you want to be in your marriage. Be the spouse that you want for the other person and that you want the other person to reflect back to you. So that would be my number one tip, is to behave.
Diane, that's 5. That's like 10.
Okay,
There's nothing left.
okay, this is wonderful. I want to unpack a couple things here and get a little personal. And if you can't answer, that's okay, Diane, because I know you and I know your spouse.
And you accept me.
well, so here's a question. You're married more than 3 decades now, correct?
My wedding anniversary is this Friday night on Shabbat, and it will be 38 years of marriage.
38 years. So it's more than 3 decades. So I'm going to ask you, as the doctor in the house and the loving spouse of a very interesting being, have you had occasion to use this particular situation?
Often.
Oh, wait, no, this is wonderful. Right, because I want other people to understand that we're all, for want of a better term, imperfect. You know, it's not the term I like, but it's the only term that comes out as people understanding that we're dealing with human beings, even the nicest of human beings, even me, the nicest of human beings. So yes, that's what I wanted to hear.
But I start with a bedrock of believing I'm in a happy marriage and that my husband means everything to me. So if I start with I'm in a happy marriage, then that makes it easy to behave that way because I know I have what I'm seeking. And it lets me then say yes, even if I don't always feel like it, or go along with things because I know my husband does that for me plenty of times. So if it's reciprocal and you know that you actually have a happy marriage, or even if you're just pretending to have a happy marriage at that moment, then it will help you get through the difficult times and reset into a more positive light.
I like much what you said about even if it feels or is, in quotations, inauthentic at the moment. In other words, go out of yourself for the benefit of your marriage to be able to recognize that the being that's with you really is your world and you want to make that as good as possible. So you're right. Let's start with acceptance as the bedrock, and then we can move into respect and affection. And hopefully all those things happen. And you're right. It's in the moment. So it's not as if, oh my God, I got to do this the rest of my life. Okay. You know, I can do this for the next 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's a lot of good stuff. Right. And thank you so much. That was wonderful. And direct from the book in the epilogue, no less. Yes. DD, Don't Divorce, which we found out that Lori read actually was fascinating. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful, Maura. What is your first tip to share?
You know, thinking about this, Barry, I was like, all right, let me write down the answer, my 2 answers, my 2 responses. And as I was getting ready to come on board, I thought, I'm chucking one of them and I'm using the most obvious and nobody else better steal it from me. Here it is. It's to have a sense of humor. You know, I'm very cerebral. I'll go to here and what I think. But when I came right down to it, I thought, you need a sense of humor in your marriage. I didn't realize until I started calculating. Jimmy and I got married in 1981. We are on our 5th decade of marriage. Plus, we dated for 4 years before we married. Unbelievable. I didn't think I'd live to 30, so it's shocking to think I'm on my fifth decade of marriage. But this thing about a sense of humor, if you want to think about longevity, elasticity,
Resilience, yes.
absolutely, you need a sense of humor. And I'm not even going to tell you that I'm basically a funny person. I don't know that I am. I know I have some wit. But when you consider all the things that life throws at you, all the changes, all the unexpected events, all of the areas that you and your spouse may come to, to lock horns with, somebody needs a sense of humor. And I'll just, since you were asking Diane how things were in her real marriage, I'll even tell you my own, the things that came to mind. My husband had been really, really sick. I mean, really sick. 2 years in a row in the hospital for quite a while. Doctors are looking at him like, we don't know if he come out. Now, he's so sick. Fortunately, he comes out. He's better. But I get home.
And by the way, he plays basketball now.
Well, yes.
Hello.
I'm going to go for his latest thing. But anyway, all that aside, this is where the sense of humor comes in. I have been at the hospital with my husband, 2 winters in a row, 5 days, 4 days, 5 days at a time. Now, he's the one that is so sick, who needs everything. I get home, I run to the restroom, I look in the mirror and the sunlight's coming through. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was possible to have this many wrinkles. Now I'm not the one who's sick, but you know what? I laughed about it. I literally laughed about it because I thought, you need this. This morning or this afternoon, I must have come in from working out and Jimmy takes a look at me. He said, Maura, you look so well. And this is what I said to him. I said, Jimmy, it's amazing. When we met in college, I don't know what I looked like. I said, but do you realize because of all the things we've been through together and all the things we endure through and all the hope that we carry and the resilience that we have within us, I said, I think I actually have something inside of me that emanates. And it is, I would say, it's a sense of happiness. And I'll give you one last story. Since Diane, you started it, Diane, with your recipe. I just need to share this with everybody else. A need for a sense of humor. I wrote a book on marriage, although it wasn't intended as such. It was part of the Art of Happiness series. And it was all about judgment. And I called it Judgment and the Polish Inquisition. Because it was all about the very first time I met my Polish mother-in-law, who was not too happy that I was coming from the wrong ethnic group. And it was—
Wait a minute, even though you were both Catholic.
Oh, that didn't matter.
Right.
Even if I were half Polish, it wouldn't be good enough. So she decided I was already off limits for her son, even though we decided we were going to be an item. So I ended up many, many years after we were married, writing this story. What's it like when we all go through judgment? And I talked about meeting up with my mother-in-law, and I was at the house overnight. It was like literally getting caught in the twilight zone. The amazing thing was my husband helped me write this short book, and we were reliving it. And it was really a horror show. I'm going to tell you, it was a horror show. I was scared. Like, you have no idea. I was a very timid young woman. Anyway, as we are writing the book, 35 years later, the two of us are absolutely in stitches because we're looking back at something that was awful and we kept letting it go. And I'll tell you about the endurance of a good sense of humor, because after my mother-in-law passed, and, I guess it's not that we ever had words with each other, but I think she would have been very happy had my last name had a ski at the end of it, like any other good Polish girl. So when she passed away, we are getting ready to intern her at the cemetery. And my husband nudges me, and he's laughing. And I'm thinking, what is this? He said, Maura, even before she's going into the ground, she's still getting the last word. And right next to her tombstone was the Himilevsky tombstone in Trenton, New Jersey. And what's in the book is when Jimmy first told his mother, Mom, I want to marry this girl. And she said, but she's not even Polish. When we're putting Mrs. Sweeney in the ground, there's this tombstone, Himilevsky. And he said, you don't know what's so funny? I said, what? He said, Maura, you don't remember my mother telling me well, you could have married Marianne Himilevsky. And he said, wouldn't you know my mother's got the tombstone right next to hers, as if to say, Jimmy, I'm still getting the last word. So there you go. A sense of humor can bring you through. In my case, we've been married, 42 years, but 46 years altogether, 47 years, with a mother-in-law that never truly accepted me. A sense of humor you needed in a lasting marriage.
Outstanding and quite true, isn't it? Because without a sense of humor, I love that if you don't have an SKI, even though you told her that you enjoyed skiing and you really were a ski bum, but it didn't work for her. She needed it in your name.
She had already decided. I'm telling you, she was a force to be reckoned with. But you know what? I have to say this, and this goes back to what I said to Jimmy today. But he said, Maura, you look so bright when I came back in. And I said, Jimmy, the difficulties we had in life, I said, I think what it did is it brought out of me a bigger version of self because I learned how to roll with the punches rather than just caving and finding my new legs and just continued onward. That sense of humor, in much the same way Diane was talking about the reset and behaving in such a way that you have a good marriage, that ability to have a good sense of humor, even though maybe externals are coming your way that don't always speak of the best things, it helps you endure. And it really helps you. I'm going to say what you mentioned, Barry. It helps you thrive and it helps a marriage thrive.
And we love thriving. Okay, wonderful. Lori.
What's
The
the question
wife
again, Mary? I
expert.
forgot.
Pardon?
What's the question again? Oh, and
The
then
question is, it's you have 2 tips that you're going to be sharing. We start with 1 tip. You were
tip
supposed
of
to,
what?
you were
What am I
supposed to prepare them at home beforehand and brought them into class.
So this is the first tip. Are you ready?
Yes.
Have amnesia. Because if you don't remember your last fight or what someone told you the day before, you can't possibly get mad at them. That's how I roll. I literally, my brain doesn't work anymore. If I don't write it down, it doesn't become part of my reality. So sometimes stuff gets lost, sometimes texts happen. But if people stop, like this, I talk about it a file, like this is my files, right? So people go, oh, wait, that upset me. Hold on a second. And they go in their file in the Rolodex and they pull out that memory and go, aha! On December 7th, 1864, you did this to me already, and it hurt me. It happened 30 years ago, and I remember it like it was today. And that's the stuff that I think screws people up. Stop having a memory. People have like cases and cases of documents. They remember every tiny bit of crappy thing that happened to them. Let it go. Live today. I always tell the girls I coach, and there's lots and lots of them, today is a new day. Let it go. Because if you meet your husband every day for a new day, be like, oh, good morning. Well, isn't that a cute tie? You're really handsome. And I ended up with you. Ooh, am I lucky? And you treat your day that way. That's something I talk about. And I call that filing system suitcases. And the older you get, the more pains and suitcases you start to build and carry with you. So if you leave one relationship and get divorced, which you know we don't like that, and you go on to another one, you grab suitcases and you drag them with you. And every new relationship you open up and you're like, in 1764, my third ex-husband did that to me and I don't like that. And that really upsets me. And everyone starts doing that. It's like, this guy's going, I didn't know you then. But you act like you did as if it just happened, and they weren't there when that memory came. So we got to let go of our memories. Live for today. Today's a new day. ABL, always be learning, always be growing, ABG. That's my part 1. Part 2 is, if we remember, this is my second tip. If we
you get one
remember,
deal. You only get one. You got 1 tip now, and then we come back and we do tip number 2.
Oh, okay.
You got to read the instructions.
Oh, I forgot. I did read them.
Okay, so you get your tip number 2 will come in the second round. But I just want to go to what you're saying right now, because I think it is vital for people. Everybody, in my humble opinion, let's back up. We know it to be true. Everybody has baggage. The question is what you do with your baggage. Do you leave it and put it someplace? do you rent? And I actually did this one time with a group. I think there were 20 people in the group I did it with, and 16 of the people actually did this. I asked people to go to the airport. It was the airport, and rent a locker. You can get a locker, a temporary locker. It used to be at the airport. You can get these things, and you put something in there, and you go out, or a train station, something like that, and get a temporary locker. I said, get a locker, open it up, take the baggage that you're carrying, and put it in there, and lock it up. I had them go leave class for an hour and go back and come back, and 16 out of the 20 people did it. And I'm telling you, of the 16 people, 15 of them were crying tears of relief because of what you just said. To be able to take baggage and let it go and put it down someplace in a corner, or it doesn't exist anymore. Look, I'm married 45 years. Every once in a while, my wife starts remembering things. And this is not my tip, but I got to tell you, it takes a lot of work, but I do it. As okay, let her just, and eventually she stops talking about it. But yes, baggage can really make a difference in people's lives, can't it, Lori? Let it go. I have a piece in my new book new book is called Oh Shift. And as I say, in 4 decades of working with people, 97.2% of people drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happens. So you got to be careful with the F. But in O Shift, I mentioned that the ability for people to let go of something is probably the greatest possible power that you have. So I use the word stop because we all see stop signs. They're everywhere, right? When you see a stop sign, what do? You think, stop. Well, stop, I reframed, calling it successful transformation opens power. You want to have a powerful life or powerful marriage, to reset, sense of humor, and you say, get rid of the baggage, right? Outstanding. That was tip number 1. You'll get tip number 2 when we come around to you again. Okay, Barry Shore, what's your number 1 tip? So my number 1 tip is something I've been working on for years. I even made a card out of it. You see what does that card read?
Be the first.
Be the first. And on the back of the card, it reads, be the first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. The first to forget is the happiest, which I think almost incorporates all the things that the 3 of you said. Be the first. In other words, like you said, Diane, reset. It's up to me. I'm going to do it, right? And to be able in a argument, fight, whatever it is, to apologize, even though you didn't do it, that's being brave, right? Why do I do it? Because I love you. Hello, I love you. I don't have to say it. I show it by apologizing. If I upset you, I'm sorry. Even if I didn't. And the second thing is the first to forgive. That's the strongest person, or the stronger person if you're doing it with 2, right? It's I forgive you. I don't hold it against. I don't even carry the baggage, Lori. I say truly, I forgive you, because it helps. Like you said, Diane, I'm in a great marriage. That's what great marriages do, right? And the third part is the first to forget is the happiest. That really hurt me. Okay. Wake up tomorrow morning. Or, hey, it's Wednesday. Prince Spaghetti Day. Do you remember that, Laura? I grew up in Boston. Boston was dominated by a place called Prince Spaghetti with ragu sauce. Right. Then they owned Wednesday. Somebody was so clever. Wednesday is Prince Spaghetti Day. And everybody knew it. And people had spaghetti. But the point is, if you're the first, and you want to be the first, because like Diane said, I have a great marriage, right? Right now, I have a great marriage. And I want to be that way, not just act that way. I want to be that way because if I behave that way, I really will incorporate it into my very being. Is that correct, Diane?
Yes, of course.
Right. So, okay. Well, with that note, we start round number 2. Okay, Diane. Dr. D, you're up. What is tip number 2 for
Now, it's
you?
funny because I have to say, Lori took my tip. The truth was that the 2 ways that people could reset their marriage is behaving as if you're happily married and winning by letting go. And there is someone who we both know, Barry, Liz Danziger, who wrote a book called Winning by Letting Go.
Right. Great.
When you look at it in terms of you are taking control, then you get to shape what happens. And letting go makes not only you, but both of you together the winners. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%, Lori. You said exactly what I was thinking of. Now, when you look at winning by letting go, it can be, as you mentioned, Barry, the baggage that you're dragging with you that you want to put in the locker. And when I have clients with this kind of thing, I say, well, okay, you take this, whatever it is in their case, and put it in a lockbox. There's your locker, and put it up on the shelf in the closet. And just leave it on the shelf in the closet because it's not helping you right now. What you want to do is move forward. And so by leaving that behind, then you can make some strides forward. But also, if you're looking at winning by letting go, you can look at every moment as an opportunity to win or lose, or to win and not care. I mean, really, the opposite of good isn't bad, it's indifference. And so I think that if you take the opportunity proactively and say, I'm going to let go of these feelings of anger, resentment, history, something that happened to me. I'm going to do that in the moment right now. I'm going to win by letting go and thereby gain control, which is what everybody wants in a relationship anyway. You want to feel that you have a sense of control, not that the other person's beating you down, but that you are an active participant. So by winning, by letting go in this moment, then you have a sense of accomplishment because you're in control and you can move forward. So I just want to reiterate what Lori's point was and yours was, Barry, that it's so important not to carry around resentments and not to let them poison your current life because they all occurred in the past.
So let's unpack something here. First of all, I find it wonderfully, how should we say it, engaging that we have these 4 different people, and yet some of the ideas, of course, they're completely interwoven because the life is a fabric, to be a little bit poetic, but the point is that we are dealing with the same ideas coming in from different angles and such. And this idea of baggage, of things that happened, and about letting go, and you mentioned, and I happen to be a big fan of Liz's book, actually. It really is a great book, Winning by Letting Go. And she and her husband have a wonderful marriage with fabulous kids and been through stuff. So I like a lot what you said about, Diane, about sense of control. And it's not so much, and I know you mean this, it's not controlling the other person, it's control of oneself. Because when you get control of oneself, then you can't be angry by definition. Or you can feign anger. That's FEIGN. You can feign anger, but you won't be angry because you have control of yourself. You can't be that way. And if you really have some control of yourself, you can use the sense of humor to really, as you say, accomplish something, which is, I have a great marriage right now. I mean, this mindset is so wonderful, Diane. I have a great marriage right now. That can help in that unique situation, which can happen multiple times in the course of anybody's month or 6 months or year. They're even the best of people, things, we're dealing with humans and emotions and stuff. But when you, like you said, if we love the other, well, I want to be of benefit. My whole goal in marriage is what? I want to help It's what I call SOS, service over self, right? Isn't that's what you like that one? SOS, service over self. It's in the new book. Oh, shift. But the point is that that idea that you brought forward of I have a happy marriage right now, and using this part of letting go, which you emphasize so nicely, Lori, and I'm sure you're going to speak about a little bit more when you talk about the women that you work with on a regular basis who are in the midst of either looking for, thinking about divorce, and using all that baggage. I like that line. My third ex-husband, but but I wasn't around then. That was 30 years ago. The ability to do that. Well, thank you so much, Diane. That's wonderful. Okay, fabulous, Maura. What is tip number 2 behind door B?
I want to first comment on the synergy from tonight. Barry, you're absolutely right. I want to add a New Jersey twist to this whole idea about forgetting.
Oh, a New Jersey twist.
I have to, because that's where I grew up, right outside of New York City. So if there's anybody familiar with the very colorful personalities of culture up in New Jersey, they'll appreciate this. And it goes right in line with the sense of humor, letting things go, forgetting, having amnesia, locking things up. When I speak on the power of happiness, one of the things I've always kind of chimed in on is, are you carrying unforgiveness? Well, my husband said to me, who reviews everything I do, Maura, that's a little bit of a heavy word to talk about unforgiveness, especially when you're talking about happiness. So
and
he
especially
said,
being Catholic. Yes. Okay.
So he said to me, why don't you just tell people, forget about it? Now, I don't usually talk that way, but in Jersey, it's when
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Well, I used it only about a week ago in one of my presentations, and everybody cracked up because they actually had somebody in the audience who was originally from New Jersey. But you know what? It makes things level. It lets you breathe better. It leaves things in the rearview mirror, and it truly does give us that sense of power over our own lives, our sense of well-being. Our hearts are in a better place, and what you're really doing is you're changing the energy because you're using a good sense of humor while forgetting. But all right, anyway, I just wanted to tell you it's such synergy tonight, and it's very nice the way it always works like that. My second hint, or what do we call them, tip
Tip.
is this: learn to be your spouse's best friend. Now, this is something that you may not start out as best friends, especially after you say I do and you realize all the things you don't agree with. But if you think about over time and the trust that develops between the two of you, and when you start to see that you are each other's best friend, what is that? How does that show up? Well, you're going to love the person like you love yourself. You're going to want to see the best for them. You're going to want to do the best for them in the same way you hope that they would for you. But beyond that, things like support. What does your spouse need that you have? And what do you have that your spouse needs? I always say I could never get out of my garage without directions, but you could drop my husband in any foreign country, and in 5 minutes, he'll figure his way around. That's how the two of us help each other. You can help your spouse in being a best friend. I wrote down a few other things, like always seeing the best in them, always seeing the best. So what are you doing? You're encouraging, you're moving them forward. There's also the whole idea about truth. When you are each other's best friend, when you have the other person's best interest in mind, you can actually be trusted with the truth, because you're not necessarily sharing truth to say, well, you know what's really wrong with you? You're sharing truth to say, you know what? You have a behavior pattern that it's not working too well for you. And one thing that came to mind preparing this eons ago was my husband said to me in the kitchen one night, could have been 25 years ago, and I realized he was getting frustrated. He said to me, do you realize you talk out of both sides of your mouth? I said, no, I don't. He said, yes, you do. And he said, it's like you have a tape that goes one way, and he said, you stop and you talk out the other. Now, here's an interesting thing, and I hope somebody could hear this. A spouse can do for us what we oftentimes can't do for ourselves because of familiarity. If we live in our own skin, if we're always going through the same passages and behavior patterns, we can't see them. So that one night I said to my husband, What are you talking about? I cannot believe I talk out of both sides of my mouth. Explain. And I still didn't get it. And I had him explain it and give me examples. And then I said, do me a favor. The next time I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, show me in the moment. And do you know, I never forgot it. And I thanked him for it. I said, Jimmy, I didn't know I was doing it. And one side would be something good. The other side of my mouth would be speaking something depressing or something not uplifting, but they were oppositional. And I was not even at unity with my own thoughts and words, but it could be anything. So if I could just put a bow on this, learn to be your spouse's best friend. And best friends happen over time. They happen when you go through certain circumstances. They happen as you show each other what your intentions are, and you build a sense of trust. And you can actually help fill in the blanks for that other person. You can help support them. You can be their encourager, the person that helps them get to where they want to go. And sometimes there's nothing else like it. Really, I would not be where I am today had I not married a man with a unique set of a different composite than what I am, even though we share the same values. Because as much as I would always hold back, he'd say, come on, Maura, you could do it. And that's a best friend will tell you, you could go and you could accomplish those things you want to. But again, in marriage, it's one of those things you could develop and cultivate over time. Very good tip, if I do say so myself.
No, it's an outstanding tip. It's the one I was going to give, but I'm going to have to do another. The reason I find it so powerful is because you're right. It is exactly what we long for in a relationship with the closest person on earth, right?
Mhm.
To be able to be completely trusting. And therefore, what I call the other side of that is being vulnerable and open to trust. I love what you said, Maura, and I've used this for myself. I've asked my wife to help me with this. I used it for my son, Ezra, on something in particular. And that is if I asked my wife to see if I'm doing something. And if I am, then she's supposed to put up her thumb like that, like that. So, these are things we learn, and the thumb sometimes goes up a few times. But the point is that you're right. When you are cognizant of it, you have the power to be aware of it and then control it, as you said, in the positive sense of control, Diane, and then become the best you possible, because that's really what we're here for, right? The genius of marriage is that it's that unique coming together, rubbing against each other in a positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant way to do something that cannot be done if you're alone. Cannot be. You can try, but it can't. It's by definition, it won't happen. Everybody needs coach, guru, guide, etc. But the greatest guru, coach, guide is your partner in marriage, right? I mean, that's what we're all agreeing on for the moment. And thank God it's worked for many thousands of years for many billions of people. But again, it does take effort, it takes work. But it's pays dividends beyond any bank account ever could. No billionaire on earth can have as much benefit as a good marriage, or even, as you say, even better, Diane, a great marriage, right? I'm in a great marriage right now. There are billionaires that have been married 6, 7, 8 times. Big deal. Who needs it? Okay, Wonderful Lori, tip number 2.
What's the question? I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Just kidding. I have a comment though. So
Yeah.
when we're talking about best friends, so Maura, I just want to say that's a heavy topic with the women I coach, because they say, we've been married for 30 years. Now he wants me to be his best friend. I don't want to be his best friend. And my response to that is, best friends at work or out in the world together have an affair. So if you remain his best friend, you will get him back. So I always put that in perspective. The other thing someone else said about not getting mad, that getting mad is not so good. And I had a mother-in-law who used to say, never go to bed angry. I haven't slept in 50 years.
Right.
I know. Okay. So my tip number 2 is be the mirror.
Be the
Mirror.
mirror.
Yeah.
Mirror.
I have seen that if I introduce this word, this phrase, this behavior into my family and I do it repeatedly, they will pick up on it. We teach people how to treat us. So if you want your husband to have nice behavior towards you or be kind to you or stop calling you names, never call him a name. Never treat him poorly. If you don't want him to be angry with you, don't be angry yourself. Be very cognizant of all the actions you show another person because you're going to get it back. And if you're always going to someone with a they're going to come back at you with a But if you pull back, we in marriage, we do this dance, and couples always have their own dance. Every couple has their own dance. And it just takes one person to tweak a little bit and the dance changes. And if you're smart and you figure out how to untwine the dance or look at each step and see where you can tweak it so it doesn't go to the stage right and get everyone upset, find it and change it. Because we have that power. We have the power to be what we want and be the temperature of our family. I teach the girls that I coach, stay at 75. If the husband goes up to 90, stay at 75. If he goes down to 40, stay at 75. If you stay here, everything kind of equals out. Moms, sorry, Barry, moms are kind of the temperature. Everyone looks to mom like, is mom okay? Okay, good. Mom's okay. So we are the temperature to be. So I have 2, be the temperature, be the mirror.
Be the temperature, be the mirror, because they reflect each other. They're really similar. And be the mirror is a wonderful expression, especially you're now teaching or coaching people who come to you who are on the edge of their marriage, meaning they're falling potentially into divorce. You're urging them and coaching them to try and avoid it, but they're at the edge, and nobody ever taught people this expression like you're saying now, or these other expressions like say sense of humor, that my marriage is, I'm in a great marriage right now. Be the mirror. And if one integrates that into one's being and recognizes that, well, you can do what Diane started with. I have a great marriage right now. In other words, and I'm reflecting it because I'm the mirror. And
Yeah. So can I say something to that? Because Diane, I wanted to bring this up because I know there's some girls, I sent this to my people. So I know there's some people on here.
I like that. My people.
My people. So what you just said about how act like it. If you want a great marriage, be that. And that's what I say. And they're like, but that's not authentic. If I'm sad, I should be sad. And if I really feel this way, I just should feel this way. And I'm curious of what your response to that is, because I know what I say, and they all know what I say, but what's your response to that? When you offer, like, you know what, live in what you want. If you want a great marriage, just be that. But someone says, but that's not authentic. What's your response to that?
Well, fake it till you make it. I mean, the truth is that if you do it, it's a Torah principle, actually, that what you do is what you become. And you work from the outside in by doing mitzvot, by doing commandments of God, and then that works on you and brings God inside you. Not to get religious on you, but the point is that working from the outside in is effective. If you're going to start with the negativity that you authentically have inside, negativity builds on itself. And so if you're going to realize and latch on to the authentic negativity that you have, then you're going to end up wallowing. And you're going to end up pulling away from your spouse because your spouse doesn't want to see that. Your spouse is not attracted to wallowing or depression or any of that stuff. You want to become the person that your spouse is attracted to be your best friend.
That's right.
And so it's very important that people not behave in an authentic way, but rather behave in a way that they want to behave. And again, if you behave with a positive behavior or attitude, then you will end up taking that on, and you will lift yourself up by being fake, by faking it till you make it.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm sure you're saying the same thing, Lori. I mean, I'm sure
It's nice when someone else says it.
But
Especially when we're listening.
there's a lot of research on it that shows that you can teach yourself how to behave differently by behaving differently.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not just lame talk among people who like to think so. There is research, and there is thousands of years of confirming that if you behave the way that you want to be, you will then internalize it.
Right. Just speaking about the research, it's specifically in the area of smiling, because we all know intellectually, and it's been discovered, that the smile is an ability to communicate that really goes beyond any anger. So, because you can't smile and be angry. But here's where it gets really fun. The dopamine effect, as they say, from a smile is real. So if you're smiling, that creates dopamine in the system, which gives rise to what they call the happy drug, right? And what they call a fake smile is the same as a real smile, in quotation marks. It creates that same chemical process. Am I correct on that, Diane?
Well, I just wanted to add, yes, you're correct. And I wanted to add that there's a particular type of smile that is most effective in doing exactly what you say. It's called the Duchenne smile, Duchenne.
Right.
And that is a big smile. And if you do just a little grin, I mean, it's good. It's good.
Right. Grin is good, right?
But if you're going to smile anyway, and especially if it's fake, you might as well put on a big smile, because if you put on a big smile, it's most effective in turning around your mood and the mood of everyone around who observes it.
So before I give my tip number 2, and mood is a very interesting word, and it happens. Okay, I'm going to go into PC territory, and nobody's going to like. Mood tends to be more from women than men, but equal could be happening. But if you look at the word mood backwards, it spells an interesting word. Doom. Oh, I'm in a mood. And it's authentic, Lori. I mean, I really feel this way. Big deal. Get with the program. It's going to cause doom. So be the mirror, like you said. And I have a great marriage. Duchenne, baby. Okay, I'm going to finish up. We only have a few more minutes. My tip number 2 is a word that I use because it has 3 possible pieces to it. And the word it's overused, but I'm going to use it anyway. And the word is listen. LISTEN, because listen stands for locating insightful, sustainable, transformative energy now. That's my acronym. Why do I like the word listen? Because the same word spells enlist. Well, big deal, Barry Shore. So it spells enlist, yes. But when you enlist you ready for this? The same word of listen spells the word silent. When you enlist the silent mind, you can now listen to the person you love. We all know intellectually, well, listening is very good, of course. Well, I have 2 ears, 1 mouth, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. Listening is a great skill. It's taken me 70 plus years to be able to come close to mastering it. But there's only one person I care about when I want to listen. And that's my wife or my son. Listening is not simple. It takes work. But I'm going to use what each one of you have helped me with the sense of humor, with be the mirror, and to recognize I have a great marriage right now. So listen, the capability of enlisting your silent mind, and just be aware. Look what I got. This is amazing. And then a big smile. So for me, the word listen is a very powerful part of my life. I love it. It helps me, especially when you get into situations that are gnarly. Isn't that a great word? Gnarly and such. And it happens. It doesn't matter if you're 27, 47, 77, 107. Stuff happens. It's life. But look what we accomplished today, kids. We had 2 tips from each one of these amazing beings, and it's all good for your marriage. Your marriage will be much better for it. Not only better, it will be fabulous because you have a great marriage right now. You have a sense of humor. Get rid of that baggage and listen carefully to the person that you love the most in the world because you're their best friend. You want to be that way. You want to act that way. You want to think that way. And then just embrace them with your love, even if they can't physically engage at the moment. Like you said, the emotional part of the Diane, even if you can't physically embrace them, but do it mentally as if you're hugging them at that very moment. It works. I know. It happens for me. It happens for my wife and other people that I love. So on this high note, first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to you, Diane, and to Maura and to Lori making the time to do this. Thank God we have many, many thousands of people that love this show and listen to us, every month. And it's something very special. So a big hug. We appreciate it. And of course, as we do every month when we do our show, we end with we conclude. We don't end. We conclude with a group hug that's going out to thousands of people around the world. And if you call, HUG stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. Ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Our blessing for everybody is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Bye, kids.
Bye.